Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. So, we are facing another crisis that the corporate media isn't talking about very much. And, the U.S. is not discussing very much because it's not occurring here. And many Americans in corporate media don't focus on it in the belief that it will not affect the U.S. But nothing could be more correct. More incorrect. The plague, it's a plague. A plague of locusts. Currently, there are massive swarms of locusts that are attacking tens, perhaps hundreds of thousands of acres of crops in Africa and multiple South American countries simultaneously. Now, this is happening after U.S. farmers have destroyed millions of tons of produce, while U.S. ranchers have slaughtered millions of pigs and chickens, and only to bury those in mass graves. Meanwhile, beef ranchers have reduced the size of their herds, as have dairy farmers, after dumping millions of gallons of milk, which could have been packaged in shelf-stable containers, as it is sold in Europe, or turned into cheese or other products with long shelf lives for future use, and it could have been used for food banks and so forth. The reduction in crops in other countries from these locust swarms will reduce the ability of meat producers of any kind to produce as much meat as they would in a normal year, as food crops will be sold directly to market, not available as feed crops for livestock. In the Middle East, crops and livestock production have been reduced for years, even decades in parts of the Middle East, due to widespread warfare, armed, funded, and urged on by the U.S. government. Now, something I have to bring up is that not all crops that are grown are even made for human production. Feed crops are not generally, anything that we can consume. They're made specifically for livestock, and they have different qualities than the corn and so forth that you buy in the store. The same is true with corn that is grown for, ethanol. You can't eat that. It has completely different qualities, which make it basically inedible for the human body. Now, what Americans often fail to realize is how much food we import. Different crops are raised in different countries and regions, then traded between countries. If one region suffers catastrophic reduction of food crops, there's little or nothing for them to trade, and what crops there are in that region will likely not be exported. Instead, each country will fend for themselves and their citizens. In recent years, the U.S. has seen massive crop failures because of wildfires and extreme weather events such as drought and flooding. As of this time, we have no idea what the growing season is going to bring this year. If we suffer large crop losses at the same time as other nations, around the world are experiencing the same troubles, this problem will not be something distant and abstract for Americans. It will be upfront and personal. It will hit home. It's entirely likely this will be the truth anyway, if not by actual shortages, then by way of significantly increased grocery prices at the same time as we are undergoing large-scale layoffs and job losses, and the very real potential for devaluation of the dollar. In fact, these events could possibly increase the potential for the devaluation of the dollar considerably when seeing that the U.S. runs a continuous trade deficit internationally with the countries that we trade with. So you have to keep in mind that wherever it is, decreased crop production also means decreased employment. Decreased employment for crop harvesting, food processing, and transportation, on down to stocking shelves, cashiers, and so forth. So all of those lost jobs lead to less consumer spending and less employment and less tax revenue for municipalities, etc. And it all has downstream effects. If all this happens, the long-term result is going to be severe increases in cost of basic living. Many resources will only be available to those wealthy enough to pay the additional cost as prices rise and fewer goods are available. All right, so something to keep in mind is that when resources become limited, then all countries that consume goods are going to be competing for the same goods. So it's not just a matter of whether America can import these things, but whether other countries can import these things. In many cases, we've already seen that many U.S. farmers don't even primarily produce goods that are meant for domestic consumption, like soybean farmers produce primarily to sell to Asian countries, mostly China. I'm sure that there are many other examples of this. I haven't done a lot of research on that, but we do know that some farmers produce for international trade. Now, those crops are not as popular here in the United States. Now, something else to keep in mind is that we are facing worldwide, the potential for worldwide malnutrition and all the way up to famine. With malnutrition, we wind up facing other health challenges, from scurvy to increased, heart disease, diabetes, other health conditions that already exist become exacerbated. And so, this will, and when you put this all together and put it into a capitalist system, then yeah, the elite are going to be fine. But what about the rest of society? The ones that actually make society function? The elite do not make society function. Society could function just fine, completely well, without any elite existing. But the elite cannot function without the rest of us. They cannot exist without us. So we're running into a big potential problem in the very near future. And this is not coming years down the line. This is not coming months down the line. This is within weeks. So as more and more jobs, as they tried to reopen, the number of infections skyrocketed, the number of deaths skyrocketed, and now things are being closed down again. People are being laid off. Companies are declaring bankruptcy, closing many thousands of locations permanently. So that eliminates many jobs. Tens, hundreds, millions, hundreds of thousands, millions of jobs, which decreases the income by which people can even buy food and necessities. And this will become worse when, the moratorium on rent and mortgages comes to a close. So, if you are able to, I really advise, if you don't have a garden, a subsistence garden, I really suggest that you start one now. And do your research for short-term and long-term crops, how long it takes for these things to grow. Like corn, right now, it would be useless to plant corn in July because it would not have time to mature. So, do your research. Some things are cold weather crops, cool weather crops, like lettuce and broccoli. You might be able to plant them right now, but you won't have a harvest until fall. Depends on where you live. But they won't even germinate in temperatures above a certain point, so you may have to germinate them indoors. Do your research. Do what you can to provide for your own future if you can. And we have to help each other. And so this is becoming a very real potential for something getting kind of ugly. Nothing we produce. We have been producing more food than we can actually eat. Many thousands of tons of food are thrown away each week in America, often because it's just not pretty enough or what have you. Well, you're going to have to just accept that some of your food may not be as pretty as you want it to be, because that's what's going to be available. All right, so that is it for this episode. Please share this video, discuss these subjects. If you can, please donate $1 a month and help expand the channel. Do what you can to be prepared in any way possible. Stockpile grow garden, save money, etc. Anyway, and I hope you have a good day.